That was not the best. Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Postgame Show, live from the Toyota Lounge, a loser's lounge, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships and presented by Bet365. The Avs unfortunately lose 4-2 to the Winnipeg Jets on home ice. J. Mike and Rudo coming to you to break it all down. I don't know that I'm particularly upset with the actual results, but I am a little bit frustrated with the way it played out, J. Mike.
Yeah, it was another grimy game against Winnipeg. They did a good job of kind of mucking things up, not letting the Avalanche play their style. And, you know, they took advantage of some opportunistic bounces to their credit. But, yeah, kind of a tough one. I don't think this is a game you leave feeling furious about the process, but certainly a tough result and extends what's been kind of a weird stretch of home games here.
Yeah, I mean, you would certainly like to see the Avs start winning more at home. I don't think it's a real long-term issue or anything, but
I don't either.
Yeah, you're in a stretch of the season where I don't know. This game had a lot of weird factors to it, so I want to try and cover all angles of it, but I think it starts at the top, and you got a game out of Nathan MacKinnon and Marty Necas that wasn't awesome. It wasn't for necessarily lack of effort, I don't think, but certainly we saw those two guys create some opportunities and then get too cute with the puck on a night where it's interesting because you had your top guys playing in a certain way like that, and then the rest of the Avs pretty clearly had I don't know if I would call it a directive or whatever you want to call it, to get a lot of shots towards the net from the outside and try to put tip plays on the net. And that worked for the Avs. They saw success of that for decent portions of this game. Obviously, they scored 2 goals, both of them essentially coming off of plays like that. I struggle with the Avs top guys not leaning into that scheme and instead doing their own thing and passing up repeated opportunities in the dangerous areas of the ice.
Yeah, probably got a little too cutesy with it at times, especially against a team like Winnipeg, who is not going to let you get a ton of space or you know, create some of that fancy stuff that they were maybe trying to create. It was a game where you were going to have to be willing to do the dirty work in front of the net. And like you said, I feel like we saw the Avs as a whole do a decent job of that. The Kelly goal is a great representation of that.
Yep.
The power play goal, even to an extent. You needed those top-line guys to kind of feel the flow of the game and adjust accordingly, and I'm not really sure they were able to do that in this one.
I mean, at the end of the day, Marty Necas, no points in this game. Nathan MacKinnon, no points in this game. Your top guys are coming up goose egg, and we'll get into the conversation of Marty Necas played a significant portion of this game on the second line, but when your top guys don't give it to you, it's hard to win. That's just the reality of the NHL and how this league is built. I don't think it was the worst game ever or anything in that stretch for the Colorado Avalanche, but it was also far from their best. So we can get into all of it a little bit more in detail, but let's hit the 60-second rundown first. Winnipeg Jets are the team to get on the board early in the first period. We will see defensive zone turnovers, or perhaps failed clears is a more accurate description of an issue that crops up for the Avs in this game. It's a tip play from Gabe Vilardi that goes in. The Avs do answer back on the power play. Brock Nelson with a nice little redirect tip play of his own to get it to 1-1. And then the second period was really kind of a slog for the Colorado Avalanche. For large portions of it, I don't think they played particularly well. And Brent Burns forgets to defend early in the second period to make it 2-1 Winnipeg. Also, probably a soft one from Blackwood, if we're honest. The Avs do get it back towards the end of the second period, though. Parker Kelly just outworking folks, gets that tip in front to make it 2-2. And the Avs have an opportunity to reset in the third period and do nothing with it. I don't think the third period was horrible, but ultimately more D-zone turnovers lead to tip-ins in the back of your net. That makes it 3-2. And then I do actually have some thoughts about the empty netter from Winnipeg 4-2 as well, but that is ultimately your final, and the Avs lose by 2.
Well done.
Made it in the 60 seconds at very least. That's about the only thing that's been on time for me today, so at least we can count one thing. At least to throw some positives into the mix here, Avs power play, still good.
Special teams as a whole, I thought were really solid in this one.
Yep.
Can't be upset about that. I thought the first goal especially was encouraging because it was kind of there weren't a ton of high danger chances like early in this one, and that felt like it could be the spark of something. It didn't really prove to be that. The second period, they came out super flat, as you kind of talked about there, but in the moment, that power play goal felt like it was going to be a big one.
Yeah, it felt like it should have been the game getting back on track for the Avs, and I don't think this one went off the rails or anything. I wouldn't say anything that far, but it's a game the Avs never let in. It's a game the Avs never really...
They never seize control of the game.
Yeah.
Like you're playing from behind a lot, which is a factor in it, but they've got to get off to a hotter start, right? Like I've talked about it a little bit pregame, but it just feels like over the first 30 minutes of action, first period, maybe even halfway through the second, they're not producing a ton of late, that Pittsburgh game aside, where you just come out and blitz them. But it's been a lot of games where you're going into the third with one goal, maybe two. But I would really like to see that change here on the homestand, because it's the last extended stretch of home games you're really going to have.
Yeah, it's just tough when you look at a game where the Avs did technically outdanger Winnipeg at 5-on-5, 8-5, but that's just extremely low event hockey on both ends of the ice. It's not the way the Avalanche want to play, and it's not really a great route to success for them in that regard. And especially through multiple portions of this hockey game, the first period was the only period where the Avs were consistently dangerous. Through the last 40 minutes of hockey, the Avs had 3 high danger chances. You're just not generating anything at that point.
Part of that you credit Winnipeg probably for doing a good job of playing so disciplined. I mean, that's kind of their style anyways. They were definitely the ones who dictated the style of play in this one, which is disappointing again on your home ice. But yeah, you need more, and I think that falls on the top line, right? Like you just need more production there. Hi, Tiff.
Hi. Yeah, it's tough because you just played this team better than this, right? You just went into Winnipeg and generated significantly more chances, did a better job of beating Hellebuck, and had a much better third period, which is maybe the most frustrating part of this, is because the Avs have been a great third period team this year, and they just didn't do very much in this third period. And some of that is third period got weird with penalties and all of that, but nonetheless, I don't know. Unfortunately, there's a large part of my brain that saw this coming. Like, this is exactly the letdown home game of you just went 4-0 on a road trip. You get back home and you take a breath, and this is what happens. So, again, the result I'm not really that upset with. But it's frustrating because the Avs' biggest errors in this game are the errors they've been having for weeks, months, the whole season, frankly. 2 of these 3 goals end up in the back of your net, not because it was bad defense on the actual play that the goal gets scored on. Winnipeg gets pucks outside, puts a great tip on a puck, it goes in the back of your net. That happens. But it doesn't happen if you manage the puck better and you get it out of your own zone cleanly. And the Avs just failed to do that tonight.
It's been an issue, as you said there. It's been kind of a consistent thing with this team where it feels like they just have, I don't know, a mental lapse. I don't really know how else to phrase it. It just feels like they're not quite hitting the details there, and it's resulted in some pretty bad situations. And yeah, the second one, maybe you'd like Blackwood to come up with the save, but I just feel like they put themselves in a bad spot pretty repeatedly, which is really frustrating because it can offset really long stretches of good hockey. I mean, you went like 15 minutes without giving up a shot at one point.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes of the third period, I think they gave up one shot to Winnipeg. Unfortunately, the Avs just went far too long of stretches of actually getting shots on goal in this game. They ended the game with 23 shots on goal as a team that never led on home ice. I don't think you can be happy with that number and that result in the game. And again, it's not that they didn't have guys that were working hard. It's not that necessarily an effort level thing. I think a lot of it is a bit of a mentality thing. Nate just only had one shot on goal on the night. And again, we'll talk about him more later and the whole system. Your defense, Cale Makar, he got his 500th point, and we'll talk about that. We'll celebrate that. He also finished the night -3. Your best guys have to be better than Cale Makar putting up 1 point and going -3, and your two best forwards failing to produce a single point. I would love to sit here and spend the next 45 minutes of this show going, here's exactly these specific details on why I think the Avs lost this game and this thing and that thing. But most of the problems in this game are really very, very simple conversations for the Avalanche.
Don't turn the puck over when you're trying to clear it, and your top guys got to generate more chances, especially in a game where it's kind of grimy and it's tied and it's there for the taking. I really would have loved to have seen, even if they're not like the best chances in the world, McKinnon, Nietzsche's, whoever, early in that third, just get a couple on net, see if you can get something going.
Yeah, there are, particularly with those two, there are at least 3 instances where you watch them find a quality puck in the middle and they don't even consider the shot. In one instance, Nate just passed the puck, one-touched it, which I at least get the theory there. But when you watch how Hellebuck played this game too, he's not giving him any credit. He's reading every play as you're going to pass. And so he reads the pass and then is square to the follow-up shooter every single time. Whereas the Avs just aren't doing enough to keep a player like that honest when it's McKinnon, when it's Natchez, when it's a lesser extent, guys like Landeskog and Lehkonen. I think Nichushkin, some of that is the case as well. So it's just tough. So often the Avs make their lives harder than they have to be against quality goalies because goalies don't respect their willingness to shoot.
I just think they're hunting that perfect shot. And it's like, I get what you're trying to do, but what are the odds of you actually pulling that off versus maybe you just test them and maybe you beat them. Maybe you get the bounce. Who knows? But you've got to, especially in a tight game where you're just not creating a ton of chances with consistency, be willing to get a little bit more assertive. Like in some senses, it feels weird to be like angry that they're trying to create for others. Like, but at the same time, it's like you're Nathan McKinnon, man. Like, be a little bit greedy in that instance.
You don't even have to sit here and say, look, in theory, they need to do this. Genuinely look at in practice of this game, and both your scored goals are from redirect plays, guys getting to the front of the net and getting pucks to the net. And your guys who got no points didn't do that. They tried to get cute. They tried to create ridiculous backdoor plays. And some of them even somewhat worked, but for whatever reason, the Avs just cannot score on the back door. That one I can't explain. That one I don't know why, but it just does not work for them this year. And so when they continually try a thing they know hasn't been working and don't do the thing that you see is actively working in this hockey game, it's just that mindset, that the stubbornness of the Avs' best players. A little too often they get stuck in that rut and they have to find a way to get themselves out of it within a singular game.
Well, and this is maybe just like dumb podcast brain take, but I almost wonder if they don't tie it up late in the second, do they come out with a little bit more fire under their ass in the third? Like it almost kind of felt like you tie the game. Winnipeg's not creating a ton of high danger chances at that point. you just kind of assume you're going to pull it out at some point, but then you give up a bad bounce and, now all of a sudden you're down a goal. It just felt like maybe the urgency wasn't quite there.
I mean, I think there were large stretches of this game where there wasn't quite enough urgency, but we do need to take our first break of the show, so let's shout out a few of our sponsors on today's show, including the official vehicle of DNVR and the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche, which is Toyota. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you, like the all-new Tacoma and the Land Cruiser. Two great iconic options, but they also have 17 different models of vehicle with all or four-wheel drive available, like the Epic 4Runner, and Toyota offers more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker out there to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint or just save a little bit of gas when you're driving all over the city like myself today. 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, even the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck. They've got those too. You can go to your Vocal Front Range stores today to get a Toyota place near you, including Autumn Ocean Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota, Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain State Toyota in Denver, Stephen Toyota East Aurora, and Stephen Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR and the Colorado Avalanche. Let's go places.
Hop in that Toyota, drive on over to Raising Cane's, where you can pick yourself up a box combo. It includes cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, made-in-restaurant coleslaw, buttered thick sliced Texas toast, freshly brewed daily iced tea, and most importantly, y'all, that secret recipe cane sauce perfectly made for your box combo. Order, are you hungry? I know that I am. Order today at RaisingCanes.com or on the Canes mobile app. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
Who's cooked better?
For some Canes. We spent some time in the sun today, both of us. You can see it.
Are the Canes chicken fingers cooked better, or am I cooked better right now? Which one is it? I hope it's the Canes, but definitely got some sun at the Denver Summit game today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we have our courtesy call, Bailey Curtis, calling in live on the Xfinity mobile call-in line. Bailey, thank you for joining us. How much credit or how little credit are we giving the Avs tonight? Because they kept it a close game for the first two periods, a competitive game, but they ultimately fall short 4-2.
You give them a little bit because there were a couple different shifts, most of which came from that first line that really looked spectacular for this team. But all around, just a really inconsistent effort, I would say. That's kind of the name of the game from this one, and that's how most everybody in the locker room felt as well that we ended up talking to. You see a few different pushes, but it comes down to that inability to create consistent offense. You're looking for the perfect lane to shoot through. You're looking for the perfect pass. You're looking for the perfect play, and you see both of the goals, as you kind of mentioned, coming off of redirections. That's multiple goals, by the way, not just on the Avs side of things that come through redirections. This was a gritty game from both sides of things. And that's what kind of started to spell disaster for me, I think, in this one, because you have a lot of that high-end talent that's used to creating those chances for themselves and not necessarily relying on a lot of that put puck on net and see if somebody can tip it in type mentality. So they just got a little too stuck in their heads, I think, with a lot of this. And you saw that come out to play with, again, some of those trying to create those perfect opportunities, and it just didn't come to pass. Overall, was a really hard competed game from both sides of things. I think for the most part, despite some of that inconsistent offensive creation, they played a hard game. They kept themselves in it for the most part. And that's where I give them a little bit of credit here, is they were never completely out of it. You just run into a really good goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck too.
You get a power play goal. You get a depth goal. You mentioned some high-quality shifts from your top guys, but ultimately no points from your top six at 5-on-5. Is there an ownership of that in the room, knowing they need to be better in a game like this?
Yes and no. There was definitely a lot of frustration from those top guys tonight, but You also have Jared Bednar on the other side of things talking about how much he liked Martin Necas in this game. Despite not getting on the board, he really liked a lot of those offensive opportunities that he was creating, the way he was transitioning and moving through the ozone.
If you say so,
really
Jared.
liked him tonight. That's kind of what I said, but again, he had his moments. I think if you're looking at a full 60 hockey game, maybe not so much. He had his moments, though. And that's kind of how I feel about the entirety of the top six. Few different moments out of Arturi Lekin. You get a couple different good moments out of Nathan MacKinnon that just couldn't get completed. It wasn't, I mean, I talk about that complete effort. It was very inconsistent from their entire top six. And that frustration was very evident. Nathan MacKinnon declined to comment to reporters in the locker room tonight. Gabe Landeskog talked, but Gabe Landeskog always talks.
Yeah, he's never scared.
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys who is always willing to step up to the plate and just be like, hey, it was a hard checking game. We did not do enough to get some of our top guys those kinds of opportunities. But there was a lot of good that both Gabe and Jared Bednar mentioned post game, that they're like, we can take a lot of good from this. Realize that we need to compete harder and create some of those more of those consistent opportunities and move forward.
We saw some tweaking with the lines tonight with Marty specifically. Did the guys talk about that, or did Bednar, what did he have to say about that?
Bednar, so much, he talked about it a little bit, but I really liked what Gabe Landeskog in particular had to say about it too. And he doesn't really consider that like a huge thing that they're looking at. Like, yes, you're trying to find sparks out of different guys, and that's why you see Martin Necas move up in the lineup a little bit back to that top line, is because Bednar really liked what he saw out of him. Again, that's up to interpretation with the rest of us, but you go Bednar. But yeah, Gabe kind of mentioned that like they're really trying to find a spark out of anybody. That's where you see a lot of that line manipulation, and you're going to see a lot of that coming into playoffs. Bednar mentioned they want to get an opportunity to run all four lines and run them well. You know what you're getting out of your fourth line, but as of right now, he's still looking for kind of, dare I say, the perfect combination for his top three lines, and trying to configure that. You've got the time. You've got 10 games left to kind of sort that out and figure that out. And that's really all this is. That's all we're seeing. He wanted to find an opportunity to distribute some of the good that Martin Necas has been doing in the last stretch of games on the second line. Obviously, I mean, maybe didn't work as you see him get bumped back up. But that's really all it is it's a stretch to the playoffs. They're trying to run all four lines, and this is the result.
Yeah, I think that's spot on the concept of this game from Jared Bednar. Bailey, the game-winning goal gets challenged for goaltender interference. Our chat is talking about it. Didn't look like goaltender interference to me, but Bednar's thoughts and your own thoughts on it?
Bednar he was asked about this and started the quote with, and I quote, it's their decision. That is what this has turned into. It is really an up to interpretation type rule. That is the feeling there. I lean more on the side of it's a good call. They made the right call on the ice. I don't know as though, yes, there is contact in the crease. I don't think it's Gabe Landeskog that initiates the contact from the Winnipeg or from Jonathan Toews. But I don't think Mackenzie Blackwood is necessarily doing enough to fight for that position. And there's not necessarily enough context there for me to justify that is properly goaltender interference. And the way that Jared Bednar felt about it is that they're in a close game. And regardless of which way this call goes, which at this point it is a coin toss, that is how it feels to
For
me.
sure.
Anyway, and I think that is also how Jared Bednar feels about it, even if he won't say that verbatim. But they're in a close contested game. Their penalty kill is looking really good. So if you get to the point where that call maybe doesn't go your way, you trust your penalty kill enough to do the job, and that's exactly what they did. And game gets a little out of hand in the end, but I think for the most part, that's where his thought process was, is you feel comfortable enough in maybe sending one of your guys to the box that your guys can keep you in this game. And that's where the call comes from, or at least the challenge.
We've seen goals overturned for less, I'll say that.
Yes, this is very true.
As much as I hate to say it, Blackwood maybe needs to go get some acting lessons. I think we see goalies get that call more when they feel the contact and throw everything up in the air and
go for the end.
I don't know. There was an embellishment call today. Maybe he needs to go talk to them and see what's going on. I don't know. I'd love to see a more dramatic Mackenzie Blackwood. That would be wonderful. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Anything else stand out to you about what was said?
As far as the game goes, not necessarily. But we did end up talking to Logan O'Connor for the first time. He has talked since playing on the road, but this was his first time speaking at home, and he kind of talked about his journey just a little bit. Something I did think was interesting as far as his return goes. There was a lot of talk about potentially entering him into a conditioning stint and sending him up to Loveland, and that being like a lot of the speculation going into that. And he confirmed that tonight and saying that was part of their conversation. But when it got down to crunch time, they're looking at that gap between Colorado and Dallas, and it's shrinking a little bit. And the front office's thoughts were, you were a big piece of our room. You were a big piece of our lineup. We think you can make an immediate impact and help increase this gap and help us get the leg up on Dallas in the standings. And if you feel comfortable coming back into the lineup, we can just nix the conditioning stint and get you in right away, which he mentioned posed a couple, not issues, but it was something that was a little bit of a grind for him, because they're getting to that point where they're not having as many practices. They're not having as many morning skates. And if they are, they're optional. And so getting those touches on a puck and getting back into those maybe more contact type scenarios that were maybe part of his plan were a little harder to get in. But he mentioned they're kind of managing his expectations during games. They're managing his role during games. I mentioned that he felt some of his details were off in the first game, but he's built a lot of that up, and he feels like he's starting to get back to a lot of that, especially in a game like tonight and moving forward. He's feeling more and more like himself on the ice.
Great to hear on that front. I really didn't have too much else, Bailey, but any final thoughts on this one as far as, I don't want to sit here and say the Avs could afford to lose one, but still pretty comfortable, right?
I don't think they're thinking about this one too much. As far as everything goes, this was a pretty boring hockey game. And I think for the most part, they kind of feel that same way. In looking at these two teams in particular, this game meant a hell of a lot more to Winnipeg than it did for Colorado. And that was evident on the ice tonight. You get a big 2 points from Winnipeg, who are still trying to fight for that wild card 2 spot. Colorado's, their deficit, or at least the point gap between them and Dallas. Yes, Dallas wins today, but you feel pretty comfortable dropping this one. And you've got a couple more easy ones. Dare I say easy. But some ones to maybe get back in the win column coming up here for sure.
NHL easy. We'll call it NHL easy games.
I'm comfortable with that.
Bailey, we're going to let you go. Thank you for calling in. It's been a long day. Get home. Go enjoy the day off tomorrow. That
Go
was
put some
Bailey
aloe
Curtis.
on, my friend.
I know. I need it bad. Bailey Curtis on the courtesy call. Go follow her on Twitter, Bailey Curtis with 2 Y's in Bailey. And, of course, go check out all of her amazing content on thednvr.com and our YouTube channel. I do want to get a little bit more into some of the decisions Jared Bednar made in this game, but we do need to take our second break of the show before we jump into that. So let's make sure we hit that side of things. As our presenting sponsor for the day is, of course, Bet365. The Avs may not have won, but I hit my Nazem Kadri power play point bet, so I am up money on the day. It's at least you get that little bonus. Even when the Avs don't play their best. Yeah, something to be positive on. Bet365, an official partner of the Colorado Avalanche. Look, there's nothing worse than a late game meltdown. It can ruin your day faster than a spun-out tractor trailer in the left lane on I-70. That's why Bet365 created their early payout offer. If your NHL team gets up by 3 goals or more at any time in a hockey game and you pick them to win, you get paid out immediately. It's just that easy. And when you sign up with a new account and code DNVR365, put $10 in, bet that $10 on anything, win or lose. You don't even have to hit that bet. You get $365 in bonus bets. It really is as simple as it sounds. Once you sign up and place your first $10 bet, they'll throw you $365 in bonus bets, win or lose. So use that DNVR365 code. There's never been a better time to prep for the playoffs with Bet365. Bet365, where winning is everything. Download the app and use that DNVR365 code today. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Colorado. $10 minimum deposit required. Bonus bet wager excluded from returns. New customers only, 21 or older. Time limits and terms and conditions apply.
With everything getting more expensive these days, finding something that actually hits and feels like a win, yeah, that matters. We're talking about our crispy chicken crunch wrap sliders, a small warm flour tortilla filled with premium all-white meat, marinated chicken seasoned with bold Mexican spices, and tossed in a crunchy tortilla chip coating, freshly prepared pico de gallo, 3-cheese blend, and creamy chipotle sauce or jalapeno honey mustard. It may be small in size, but it's big in flavor, perfect for late nights or when your cravings just won't quit. The new crispy chicken crunch wrap sliders. Go ahead. Slide into something craveable. Live Moss at Taco Bell.
Too many good food sponsors. I want them all. It's tough for me right now. Maybe I can go get a cheesy potato burrito and then put a Cane's chicken finger in it. Maybe that's the secret sauce right there. All right, I'm solving this problem. Can they make
like a Raisin Cane's Taco Bell combine like they used to have?
Oh, the KFC. Yeah, I'm in. Combination KFC Taco Bell Pizza Hut. If now you know you're a real one.
Right. That's real sicko territory. Some breadsticks and some tacos.
Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. J-Mac, I'm curious your thoughts on some of Jared Bednar's decisions that we heard from Bailey too. The Natchez second line thing, the goalie interference. Where are you at on him?
I don't really understand the Natchez stuff, to be honest with you, because it just felt like it had been gelling so well on that top line. So I guess I understand in theory what you're trying to accomplish, just tinkering a little bit. You have the time to do it. But it felt like it set that top line back, and then you're playing catch up for the rest of the night.
Yep. I 100% understand it. I 100% understand what he's doing. He said, I'm rolling Natchez with the second line, and we're just going to see. And the top line got crazy adventurous. Parker Kelly was taking shifts with that thing. Ross Colton was up there. And Bednar said, let's just see if we can win this game with Marty Natchez on the second line. And the answer was ultimately no. And I think Bednar showed his true colors at the end of the game after they killed that penalty on the goalie interference. The top line was back to Marty Natchez with it on it because it was like, all right, fine, we're losing, and now I have to go try to get a point out of this game. But I really do believe Jared Bednar was like, we're trying to win the game, but I'm far more interested in give me a full 60 minutes of what this looks like. Can I rely on it in the playoffs? And unfortunately, I think the answer you got was no. Not even necessarily because of Natchez, but when you saw the McKinnon, Lehkonen, Landeskog line play together, Landy had a tough night. Beat up the puck a lot in this game, ultimately had the defensive zone turnover that led to the eventual game-winning goal. Nathan MacKinnon needs another ultra high level skill guy on his line. I think he just does to get the most out of him. And he missed Marty in that regard in this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just don't think the juice was there with that top line with the way it has been of late, especially post-Olympic break. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know better than Bednar or anything like that. The benefit of having now a 7-point lead, but a 9-point lead in the division coming into the night was you can do that a little bit. Now, maybe I would argue Calgary or some of those other opponents, that's when you start getting a little bit creative and testing stuff out. Winnipeg still, I mean, I know they're on the kind of the borderline there, but they're still a playoff-ish team. So I don't know. Like, I get it. You have the flexibility. You've got a lot of guys that have come back of late, and with you not practicing a ton, it's not like you have a ton of time to do that kind of stuff outside of the games. But when it doesn't go your way, it's one of those that's easy to second guess in hindsight.
Of course. And to be opaque about it, this is absolute hindsight. If Jared Bednar runs that out and Marty Nature scores a game-winning goal from a Bach Nelson assist in the third period, he looks like a genius. Obviously, it didn't play out that way, but we have that benefit as talking about it after the fact. I will say, and I think this goes back to the inherent mental flaw of this team is just stubbornness. You got through that second period and you're like, all right, you clearly are getting too cute with your top lines. Landeskog is not having a good game. And you just continue to roll it. You continue to roll it until you're losing the hockey game. You need to have a little bit more prescience there to know maybe I should switch it before it becomes a problem. Then we're just going to ride it until we see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I just feel like they tied the game up and then kind of, maybe this is a little bit of an oversimplification, but seemed to approach the game with, we're good, we'll get it eventually, and never truly made a push. I know it's a tie game. It's not like you're playing from behind at that point, but it just felt like when the game was there for the taking, you're kind of sitting there playing with the fire, and then you get burned eventually, and it's like, ow, I can't believe it played out that way. Well, at some point, it's going to get you, and that's hockey, right? Like, you get a bad bounce that goes against you off of a, bad turnover, too, but I don't know. I just would have liked to have seen them come out with a little bit more urgency and just, again, trying to create a little bit more, trying to be the guy that, wins the game for the team. Like, you are the top dudes for a reason. Go out and show it.
And urgency, I do think, was an issue in the second period, especially. And again, you said it earlier in the show, Winnipeg's defensive sticks were excellent tonight. They broke up a ton of stuff that the Avs did, so you do need to get them a little bit of credit. But also, we've seen the Avs take over games like this, and it just felt like a second period that they were floating through, not super interested in doing all the details correct, dumping in the puck at an extreme amounts for a team that is usually one of the highest carry-in rate teams in the NHL. They said, we'll just dump it in there, we'll go get our change, we won't worry about it. And I don't want to harp on this too much because it's an 82-game NHL season. The reality of the modern NHL is you can't go 100% every game. You're going to have nights where you're not going to have the gas to go 100%. The Avs just came off of a perfect road trip. If you're going to pick a night off, does this one feel good? No, but does it make sense in the scheme of the season? Probably. There's a little bit of logic to that, as disappointing and as frustrating as it can be. But I just don't see the Colorado Avalanche lacking that urgency in the playoffs. And if anything, this could have been an issue that was cropping up, especially with how good the Avs have been in the third period, at least this game is a reminder that you can't just fully lean on that. Yeah,
I mean, eventually, if you put yourself in that spot where you're trying to win every game over the final 20 minutes, you're going to have a few go against you. You're playing against a desperate team. They're trying to keep their season alive. I won't say the game was meaningless or that the Avs, weren't going for it, because I do think the effort was more or less there. It was just the execution wasn't stellar. But, yeah, it's probably probably inevitable coming off of the 4-game high on the road and whatnot, but it does continue what's been at least a weird trend of home games. Like, I'm not panicking. I don't think all of a sudden the Avs home ice advantage has gone out the window or anything. They won, 17 straight at home at one point this year?
Yeah, it was
so
outrageous.
you feel pretty good, but I think RF tweeted it. They're like 3-7-3 at home since that stretch. So you'd like to see them capitalize a little bit more, at Ball Arena, especially with the postseason coming up. But losses are going to happen. You're in a really good spot. The schedule is really favorable coming up. Like, all things considered, you're in a really good position here going into the final leg of the regular season.
And it's worth noting that 3-7-3 stretch comes in the context of a team who just took a bunch of games off leading into the Olympic break, and then a team who came back from the Olympic break and immediately got injured. So tonight, you don't have those excuses, for sure. But the actual entire schedule there, I think, there's plenty of reason not to be super concerned about them at home. The other thing I want to get into... Yeah, right. Like, I think if this game was a 2-2 playoff game going into the third period, Marty Necas is coming out there on the top line shift one. He just is. Like, it's a different ball game at that point. And I do want to give Bednar some credit on the other side of this conversation. I do think I've been pretty harsh on him. I don't think that's goalie interference, but I actually really like that challenge from Jared Bednar. Bailey mentioned it. In the NHL, you're flipping coins anyway. Maybe it goes your way. But it also shows Jared Bednar showing total faith in his penalty kill. If they get it wrong, he's confident that the Avs PK can show up and get the job done, and they can still have a chance to win this hockey game. And that's ultimately exactly what they did.
Yeah, I think you got to trust that PK based on, what they've been doing of late. And to their credit, they justified that decision. Now you end up giving up the empty netter down the line, and it doesn't matter in the end anyways. But I didn't think it was goaltender interference in principle, because I don't think he truly impacted him enough.
I agree.
Like, he had a chance to make that save. I also think he was clearly in the crease and there was contact, and I don't think that contact was created by the Avalanche. So I think you could see a world in which they win that challenge, and at that stage, you're down anyways. Like, you might as well go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, I do think, I don't want to get too deep into this weeds, but there's also a conversation to be had of, like, is that even a savable puck? I mean, that thing hit 3 things on the way in, bounced off of the ice, and went in the... Like, even if he has no one within 10 feet of him, can you make that save?
Yeah, it still probably bounces in after the second ricochet, especially. It hit the ice and went all kinds of wonky. So you feel for Blackwood there. He had a couple of tough bounces tonight. But, yeah, I don't think it was reckless or anything to go for that challenge. If nothing else, maybe you win one, because it really is... It feels like a coin flip with goaltender interference. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what a catch is in football, and I don't know what goaltender interference is.
No, nobody knows at this point on that front. We've talked a lot about what Jared Bednar did and didn't do. Let's hear himself talk about what happened in this game. Coach Bednar, post-game, with thoughts.
Start off with Corey. Go ahead.
I know it's been like a season-long thing with the goalie interference, but just what did you see on that play, and what did you think of their decision?
No, I thought it was probably going to be their decision. Yeah. Like, I think we kind of bump him in the first time, and the second time he goes in on his own, but there's minimal contact. Like, I feel like that contact was probably just a little bit late. Like, puck was already kind of going by Blackie. Clearly affected him, but not because of the contact. But I challenged it because timing of it. We had 1 goal the whole game of 5-on-5, right? And it's hard to create offense, and if they go up 3-2, you're got a couple shifts and then you're pulling the goalie. So if you can try to erase it off the board, I thought it's worth a shot. It's close enough. And if we don't, we just need another kill, and we just had a great kill. So get the kill, and then you got 1 shift and pull the goalie.
Colleen.
There's a lot of moving around in the lines there.
what kind of positives did you get out of making some of those moves?
Well, I love Marty tonight. So, like, we weren't creating a bunch of offense at times, especially in the second period. Like, I didn't mind our first, besides a little bit of a shaky start, and then we get going. Second period, didn't give up much, didn't get much. Like, I don't think we got our first scoring chance till 4 minutes to go in the period, right? And then we rattled out 2 or 3 at the end of the period. So just not enough going on the offensive side of it. And I liked the way Marty was playing, so I thought I'd move him up and juggle the second line around, and then just trying to go with some guys that were going after that. Lots of 4-on-4, power play, penalty kill, like third period type thing. So just trying to keep everyone involved, really.
Right. How difficult is it to make adjustments on a quick turnaround against a team that's very well-rounded like Winnipeg?
Not at all. It's actually easier. Because normally what you do is you finish the game in Winnipeg, you break down the whole Winnipeg game, take what you liked out of it, take what you didn't like out of it, try to mix that in with your pre-scout playing the next opponent that you're already working on, right? You don't have to do that again when you're playing the same team twice, so it's an easier job for the coach as you go through it. You got to go through a couple things you think can help you. You present it, it's mixed into the game review, and then you're playing them again.
Eric, then Bailey.
We saw some of those lines that started the game. We kind of saw in the game in Winnipeg the other night.
Yeah.
With all these guys coming back healthy, like, is this the part of the regular season where it's experimentation time
For sure.
the playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. We got to find a way to get 4 lines going and helping us every night, both on the defensive side and on the offensive side. So we got a good idea what it'll look like, but we want to be sure, and we want to, take a look at some different wingers with some different centermen and see what we can get going when it comes to chemistry and production.
Bailey.
17 goals for Parker Kelly tonight, 2 in the last 3 games. How important is it that this is the version of that you're getting out of him with playoffs so close?
It's huge. It's huge because that line is rock solid defensively too. So I can't just speak on just Parker because it's all 3 of those guys. They were integral to our success at the end of last year. In the playoffs, they were one of our best lines. That was OC on the right side at times. We're seeing, like, now they're playing against everybody. They're playing against other teams' top lines, not giving anything up. They're hard to play against in the offensive zone. They're chipping in on a nightly basis right now, and they're not going to score as easy as some other lines. But they're doing the right things, and they're getting into those areas, and they're hard to play against. You get rewarded in Winnipeg on a double rebound by Drury, fighting in there and staying in there and getting a chance or 2, and then tonight you get the tip from Parker. I mean, they're hard to play against, and I can play them against anyone, and I trust them against anybody.
Jesse.
500 points for Cale in his career. You've obviously been his coach for all of them. Just your thoughts?
Yep. And, it's pretty fast. That's my thoughts. It's like, wow, 500 already. Yeah, I mean, he's a special player, gifted player. Finds a way to contribute even when he's not at his best. He's finding a way to make a play, the play, whatever it is. When he's good, he's really good. And when he's having an off night, he's still finding a way to make a play to help you win hockey games, right? And that's what the best players do. There's a lot of pressure on those guys to produce on a nightly basis, and he does that and still plays pretty damn good defense along the way.
Last few ones, Evan.
I think that's 6 or 7 games with Taves and Kulak switch now. Like, have you liked the results, and is it something that you can see yourself using in the playoffs?
Yep. Yes, on both. Yep.
Last one, Aaron.
And then just to follow up on the experimentation thing, like 4 years ago when you guys were going to the playoffs, like you were changing up a lot of the lines. Landeskog was out the rest of the regular season. You had said like you wanted different options in your arsenal in case you needed to use them.
Yes.
But you also didn't trade for a center back then. Like bringing in Kadri and having O'Connor back, like is this more trying to find the best third line? Are you trying to have options? Are you just trying to see what works in general?
It's about all 3 of those lines. I know what our 4th line looks like. I mean, if you're watching us play right now and watching how productive they are and what they're doing, I know what that line looks like. Now, maybe OC, maybe Kivy, but I know what it looks like and I know what they're going to provide. If I'm looking at a line that I can tell exactly what I'm going to get out of them on a nightly basis, that's that. So I've got that set. So now I got to work around and make sure we got 3 other lines going okay, that are responsible on the defensive side and that can help us produce. And as close as I can get to having all three going, that's what we're looking for.
Thanks, sure.
So I think pretty honest from Bednar, saying, hey, I'm trying to get all four lines going. I'm looking at stuff. I'm experimenting. Also didn't think Marty Nation was really that good tonight, but, you know, he's a head coach and I'm a guy on a couch, so maybe I'm wrong on this one. There's one other thing I wanted to touch on Bednar, and this is pretty nitpicky. The Avs are going to lose the game anyway. Don't overthink this. Leave your goalie in until you win the face-off. Like, you sit your goalie your own blue line, and it takes him 3 seconds to get off the ice. If you can't maintain puck possession for 3 seconds in the offensive zone, you're not going to score anyway. Like, it just felt like you pulled him for no reason and got punished for it.
Maybe if there's like 15 seconds left or something like that, you justify it.
Sure.
Just by that might be the difference. But I mean, you still had plenty of time, and I mean, we've seen the Avs score late to tie the game multiple times. So it felt a little panicky for a guy who I think is pretty calm and cool in those scenarios most of the time.
Yeah, and
maybe there's a miscommunication there. Maybe he came too early.
Well, it was a whistle, so they pulled him at that point.
You're right.
And so it definitely wasn't communication, but I don't know. Again, it doesn't really matter. And my frustrations with Bednar are, the Avs experimented instead of giving 100% to win the hockey game, which is probably the right decision long term, but we went to this game as a takeover, so annoying for me specifically.
Plus, you spent all day in the sun, so you're going to be a little bit more cranky.
Yeah, and now I'm out, like, the arena was nice and cool. It was cooling me off a little bit. Now I'm in front of these lights, boiling in my sunburn. I'm mad now. It's the way it goes.
Gotta SBF up, buddy.
Next time, I definitely will not forget again. I promise you that.
It's funny that we've lived here our whole lives and we still just don't think about the spring sun. We're like, oh, we could be out here. It's spring. We won't get sunburned. I'm also very sunburned.
I got burned a little bit today too, so I can't talk. But it's one of those, like, since I'm next to you, it doesn't stand out as bad.
Yo. Not trying to be disrespectful, but if I get sunburned because of 4 hours of practice, I'm big mad. All right, like, at least I saw a game that I got burned at. It wasn't
yours
for
was far more worth the endeavor. I 100% agree with you there. Spring football is.
I do want to get back to some silver linings, and you kind of heard it at the end of Bednar's presser there. The Avs' fourth line is now set and forget. And not just, reliable, I know what I'm going to get out of them, I trust them. They're also consistently producing since they've gotten these guys back in the lineup.
It's been really, I don't think you could ask for much more in terms of the immediate cohesion with these guys, despite having played so very little time together this season. It's been impressive. And again, like, we've talked about this before, but I just think that fourth line being what it is right now, this is maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but like, that's the difference between this team being real good, really good, and potentially like a juggernaut in the playoffs.
Yep. And that's the goods. That's, as I always say, you can be frustrated with any loss in a vacuum. I have no issue with that.
Losing's no fun.
Right. In the moment, sucks. The way this game played out, I think especially frustrating because there was plenty of potential for the Avs to win this game, and they just didn't execute at the end of the day and didn't get the job done. But also, if your mantra is the playoffs are the only thing that matter, okay, you learned something about yourself in this game. All right, you tried a few things. All right, you can take some of this into the playoffs and understand what you can and cannot do, what you need to improve on, how you can fix some things. I just don't see this game as a problem long term.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, if you want to go back to, like, if the playoffs are what mattered, 5-on-5 over the last 5 games, you've been great. Your special teams look terrific. Let me ask you this, though, in the vein of exploration and trying to find some things out about yourself ahead of the postseason. Where were you at with Blackwood's performance?
It was fine. Obviously, I think you want that second goal. You know, anytime a goalie gets beat 5-hole, you're going to be a little bit disappointed in that performance, and it wasn't a particularly special move or shot. He doesn't even get a lot on it. I think you want that stop. At the same time, Brent Burns do a thing, like play any defense on that play. There are other issues there than just Blackwood. And then the other 2 goals are genuinely unstoppable. Like, there's nothing he can do about that. So, do you want to get more out of your goalie? Sure. Do the Avs need to do a better job of giving your goalie goals? Yes. The NHL, for my entire existence as a human being, has been a race to 3. And the Avs lost the race to 3. Last game against Winnipeg, they won the race to 3. And guess what? They won. Sometimes the math is easy.
Yeah, I don't think it was on him or anything like that. But I do think he is due for kind of a big night, maybe just one of those confidence inspiring where you get a bunch of big saves. I mean, he didn't face a ton of volume tonight either in his defense. So, like, it's not one where you maybe have a chance to showcase yourself a whole bunch. But I am interested to see how that plays out here over these final 10 games, kind of going into the postseason. What is that balance like? Is it 50-50? Does one guy kind of seize control of the net and they lean on him in the first round? I don't know. It's a weird predicament at the moment. It's a blessing. Like, it's good to have 2 really reliable guys, but it is kind of a weird quirk with this team.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see the usage, right? Because they have a couple more games, day off, day on, coming up, and then they have the back-to-back after 2 days off with Dallas, and I forget who the game after it is, but either way, St. Louis maybe? I don't know. Yeah, sounds right. Either way, I'm curious how many games get split there between Wedgwood and Blackwood, because you assume they're going to split the back-to-back. There's no reason to do that to one of your goaltenders. But does Blackwood get both games leading up? Does Wedgwood get both games leading up? Do they split the games leading up? I genuinely have no idea. It could be any of those 3 scenarios, and it wouldn't shock me. So it'll be curious how that plays out. I still think the Avs believe Mackenzie Blackwood is the starter, regardless of what anyone else believes. So I expect it to be Blackwood game 1 of the playoffs, but with 10 games left, who knows?
When you say the Avs, do you mean the team? Do you mean the front office? Do you mean Jared Bednar? Do you mean collectively?
All of those things. I believe every single thing you just lifted off, believe Blackwood is the starter. So if he plays 5 games of sub-800 hockey, though, he won't be the starter by the time the playoffs come around. So you got to go out and perform still on both ends of that conversation. We do have, I think, 1 super chat to get to. $5 from Ryan, who says, sucks the takeover was against the Jets, basically guaranteed a low-event boring game. Also, spot the difference between Burns and a traffic cone. The traffic cone at least stays where it is and doesn't actively move out of the way. That would just
That's mean, but probably true.
Yeah, and like I actually thought Burns had a number of good offensive zone shifts in this game, but
he jumped into the play pretty well a couple of times.
Yeah, but boy, was that defending tough to watch. I mean, just as rough as it gets in the NHL.
It'd be nice to get a couple of Burns goals, just to get a couple of feel-good plays back on that side of the tally.
Yeah. And the final silver lining of the game that I have, we've already talked about it a little bit, but Cale Makar, 500 points in the NHL. That's the fastest defenseman to ever do that. So, what do you say? He's the GOAT.
Has he exceeded expectations at this point in his career, in your opinion, based on like what you envisioned for him coming in? Has he been even better?
That's a really hard question to answer, because he probably has gone even above and beyond. But also 2 weeks into his NHL career, I called him the best defenseman to ever play for the Colorado Avalanche. So
you were in on that stock early.
And there's been some pretty good dudes who have played for the Avalanche at defense over the years. So it's just so hard when you're a superstar of that level to exceed expectations, because the expectations of you are win championships. And they've done one of those. That's not nothing by any stretch. If all said and done at the end of this era, you get to say he won a Stanley Cup. But it really feels like they need to get a second one.
I mean, him and Mac both, just from a legacy perspective, that second championship puts you in kind of rarefied air in terms of the guys you're going to be in the convo with.
Yeah. You want to live up to the Avs 1.0 era. You got to get two. That's the reality. I think the Avs are absolutely capable of it. I think they did some playoff learning today and did that instead of winning a hockey game. So here we are talking about a loss.
It did kind of feel like a weird playoff game where it's a grind it out. Like both teams kind of trying not to put themselves in bad spots. Like the Avs ended up doing it anyways a couple of times, but it just felt very, very safe. Kind of, especially from Winnipeg, but even from Colorado at times, just maybe a little too complacent.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Avs ramp it up to real 110 playoff pace, they're going to jam it down Winnipeg's throat. Winnipeg had a real easy time moving pucks up the ice without a ton of contesting from the Avs. And just compare today's game with the last game in Winnipeg, where the Avs are completely dominating the neutral zone against that team. Their forecheck pressure is high and heavy. Tonight was a night that you lose. That's the end of the conversation for the Avs. And tomorrow they can go out, be a better team, and go win the next game. I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. Any final thoughts on this one, J. Mike, before we wrap it up?
Just take advantage of this final stretch here. You've got a lot of winnable hockey games coming up, really outside of that final game in Dallas. It feels like you could wrap up the division here and still maybe be able to take a couple of games off heading into the playoffs.
Hopefully so. They still have a 7-point lead, a game in hand. And frankly, I don't know that those numbers even matter. Get 10 points out of your last 10 games. Congratulations. You win the President's Trophy. The Avs go do that. They've done all they can do in the regular season. We are off tomorrow, but we will, of course, be back on Monday for game day, so join us for all of that. We appreciate y'all hanging out. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Postgame Show presented by Bet365, and we are out.
We all silly like the mayor.